Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, you can see it? Everybody? Okay, good. So basically, there's going to be a lot of information in here. And like Michelle said, I've been working with about 30 individuals and their families and support team at in Cuyahoga County that got laid off pretty quickly. So I don't have all the answers, but I learned quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. And just know that you don't have to become an expert or suck all this in today. You've got documents that you can refer to. And keep in mind that when it comes to the stimulus check and unemployment information, that things are changing every day. So what might be in here today may not be the same tomorrow. I'll apply, and this is specifically for COVID-19 layoffs. So it's employees covered employees laid off due to COVID-19. If their hours or income has been reduced due to COVID-19, they can apply. Self-employed and 1099 contractors, yes, but they're going to be paid under a different program. That program is going to be called, or is called, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And I'll get more into that in a minute. Individuals losing or suffering a loss of income from a second job. If you have 2 jobs, but the second job you got cut back, you can apply. I had an employee who had 2 part-time jobs and both were affected, so they also can apply. And then just someone working 1 job part-time can also apply for COVID-19. So it's wide open and it's a lot different from traditional unemployment benefits. So the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, it's going to be a great program, but it's not ready yet. Individuals who were previously eligible, self-employed, 1099, part-time, they can apply for the UI. Because of the CARES Act, they're going to fall under the PUA. Even though it's not ready yet, it's the system that is not ready, the system in the state of Ohio. Have them apply now. Sooner the better. Job and Family Services is currently awaiting the direction from the Labor Department. There's legislation that's not quite set in stone yet. So they're waiting on that direction so they can get the system going. What happens is when a person applies at the same location as anyone that's not affected by COVID that gets laid off, it's taking that application and it's throwing it over to a different system. And it's awaiting direction from Labor Department and system changes to get processed. Okay. Individuals who apply due to COVID-19 rules, they'll receive a letter after filing requesting additional information related to income and hours worked. Has anybody applied for, not any of us, but have you worked with anybody yet who's applied for unemployment? If you haven't, you're all on mute. So if you haven't worked with someone, when you go to apply, and I've done this several times, it's not going to ask the hours worked and wages earned. So that kind of throws people off. Why are they asking me? Because it's not ready yet, but they will. Okay, the PUA program is going to cover those who cannot meet Ohio's normal requirement of having earned at least $269 a week for 20 weeks. That's waived. So that people say, well, I only had 10 weeks of work. Don't worry about it, just apply. Anyone who applies because of COVID will get the additional $600 enhanced benefit. And that will go back to, the benefits are retroactive, and you'll see different dates if you're paying any attention to this. Some say March 27th, some say the 28th, some say January 31st. The federal legislation I've read says March 28th. So to go back to that date. If the last date of employment is after March 28th, then make sure they put in that date. Don't go put March 28th into the system if you didn't stop working until April 2nd, or if your hours weren't reduced till April 2nd. Okay, so how do you apply? This is the link, obviously. I'm not going to go to it. It's actually really easy to go through if you have all the information in front of you. I've done probably 5 of them, plus talking with people who've done it themselves, and I didn't have any problem whatsoever. There was no wait time. The system didn't kick me out. It was fine. I do suggest the best way for you to tell your clients is to do it online if possible. And I know not everybody has access to the internet. So if they can, online's best. Question that came up, is it which one do I click? Well, if you've never filed for unemployment before, you click register now. If the individual has had unemployment before, then they have to enter their social security number and the PIN that they previously created. If they can't remember what that is, then they're going to have to call and ask for that information. Then you enter the required information, which is all of this. What's really, really important is this mass layoff number. That's what tells the business system to kick that application over to the PUA side of unemployment. The information that's needed is social security number, driver's license. Well, I won't read all that. You know what it is. There's one other thing that I didn't put in here, but it says the reason you became unemployed, that's where you put this mass layoff number. Then the next question, and you might want to write this down and then put it into this presentation when you get it. The next question, the answer is no. If they have children, they need to put in their names, social security numbers, dates of birth. If they're married, obviously the spouse, and so on. When it gets down here to your regular occupation, it's going to ask what you currently do. And then you're going to have to give them 2 different job skills that you would be interested or that you are educated, trained, or capable of doing. And this has thrown some people too. Don't worry about it. They know you're not looking for a job. They've waived that requirement. So just put in whatever is close to what the person thinks they can do. What to expect after applying. Individuals will receive a new claim instruction sheet. It explains how to file the weekly claims. I've already done this as well. It's very easy to file the weekly claim. I mean, the system walks you right through it. You'll get a unique claimant ID number, and actually the unique claimant ID number, you will get that as soon as it's applied for. And you want to write that down because you're not going to get an email for a while that tells you what that number is. So if the person has to go back and ask questions, they need that ID number. If more information is needed, and it will be, because they're not asking about the income and the hours. It's very, very simple application. The individual will receive what's called a monetary affidavit requesting that information. It's really, really, really important, especially with, a lot of the, all of the people that I'm working with in Cuyahoga County are DD, and they have to have support people to help them get through this. You've got to pay attention to the emails and when stuff's coming in, because there are deadlines attached to all this stuff. And if you don't apply to those deadlines, it will kick you out of the system and decline your UI application. And again, be prepared. This, like I said, the stuff is changing every day. I've got tons of paperwork that I've printed out and read every night because of the changes. Then, this is really important. I have lots of questions on this from people. And again, it's pretty simple, but read these boxes. It tells you exactly how to answer it. And the questions that they tell you where to put the COVID-19. You've got to follow, especially the people who are laid off because of COVID really need to follow this. Put in this, put in executive order home, and so on and so on. Again, that keeps the application in the PUA system, and it doesn't get confused and possibly left behind. Here's a number down here for people who don't have access to the internet. People will help them walk through it. Although I do believe the system, at least it's worked well for me, and I even did them in the middle of the daytime. not at night or in the early morning. But I have had a lot of complaints about the phone, waiting forever and ever and ever, getting cut off, having to call back. It's just the time we're in right now. It's not going to change. Tell people to please be patient and breathe. Here's additional information on how to file that weekly claim. This is really important. All income must be reported. So, for example, I have a couple of individuals who have 2 part-time jobs, or they had a full-time and a part-time job, or their hours were reduced. They're still earning money, but they're not earning at the level they were earning at. They still have to put that income in. Severance pay, vacation pay, pensions, workman's comp, any kind of buyout payments, if you pull money from your 401k, as some people unfortunately are having to do, you've got to put that money in. Okay, important information. Individuals laid off or working reduced schedule because of COVID, again, receive that additional $600 benefit, and that's for every single week they receive unemployment. So that's $600 on top of their unemployment check. And that's good through the end of July. UI benefits typically cover the first 26 weeks, but the state of Ohio has allowed an additional 13 weeks. Hopefully no one has to be laid off that long, but we don't know. So you get a total of 39 weeks of unemployment, unless the individual has had unemployment previously. Then the number of weeks they used previously is subtracted from that 39. And again, these are questions I was getting from people. Court-ordered child support, it is required to be deducted from the unemployment benefit. So even if there's no place for that to be input, they're going to know that there's court-ordered child support and it will be deducted. There's written word out there that says you don't have a choice to have the 10% federal tax withheld. That's not true. You do have the choice. Obviously, it's better financially if you have it withheld, so you don't have to pay taxes or pay that back at the end of the year. The 1-week waiting period has been waived, and that's great, except it's still taking up to 3 weeks to get your first check. And again, it's all because we haven't experienced this many people filing for unemployment in many, many, many years, if ever. The requirement to look for work is waived. You don't have to look for work. They know you're more than likely going back to the job that you were laid off from. Excuse me. Tips are wages. Question came up that, do I report my tips? Well, if an individual in the management where they work does it correctly, every week they're supposed to report the tips to their management, and the management reports those tips on a quarterly report. So don't think that not putting tips in is a good idea, because it isn't. You can choose either direct deposit, or you can get a U.S. bank, Relia card, Visa, prepaid card. I do have one individual in Cuyahoga County that applied immediately. He's in, let me see, this would be the 3rd week since he applied, and he still hasn't received his debit card. So if they have the option to do direct deposit, that's probably a better choice. Again, the first check may take at least 3 weeks. You can choose to be notified by U.S. mail or electronically by email, sorry. If possible, choose the electronic method of being communicated with by unemployment. Otherwise, you got to wait on the mail, and we don't know how anything's being affected right now. If you choose electronic, you're almost positive you're going to get it. I had this question come up. The mass layoff number did not come out until many people had already applied. Do I need to go back and update my application? No, don't do that. When that monetary affidavit or the email that requests more information comes, that's when you will state the mass layoff number, and it's because of COVID-19. I put in some additional disability-related info, just again to have it all in one location. So the stimulus checks, there still remains an issue with individuals or couples who rely solely on SSI or VA benefits as income. The reason for that is if that's the only income they have, either one of those or both, they don't receive 1099s at the end of the year. So the Department of the Treasury doesn't have that record of that. Social Security does. So it had come out that from the Department of Treasury that everyone had to hurry up and file a simple tax return. Then the next day or two, they came back and said, no, don't do that. We're going to have the Department of Treasury work with the Social Security, and they're going to pull those records and do it. Then they said, no, we don't know what we want you to do. And that's where it lies right now. So telling someone to file a simple return is probably not a good idea at this point, unless it's a different situation. I'll tell you in a minute. Because they just haven't made up that choice. They haven't made the decision yet of how they want to do it. Hopefully that'll come this week. Otherwise, they're not going to get the stimulus check. They'll get one. They just have to make the decision on how they're going to do it. Now, I will tell you that Susan had a situation with a man who is actually homeless, does not receive any type of disability or VA or any pension benefit, nothing. Works around town doing odd jobs and, gets thrown money here and there and moves from house to house. And I'm sure we have more than one person in that situation. So when I contacted the disability attorney that leads our national group at Cornell, he said, have him do a simple return. A simple return is a 1040 EZ. Claim 0 income, get that filed, and then put the address of a family member or someone that he can trust. And then he too should get a check. Okay. When resolved, the stimulus payments will not count as income for SSI recipients, and it will not count as a resource only for 12 months. Don't get that confused with unemployment. Unemployment absolutely counts for SSI recipients and reduces their SSI benefit, but the stimulus check doesn't. Individuals who currently receive SNAP benefits will now receive the maximum allotment for their household. If a SNAP household did not receive their full allotment last month, they'll get an extra amount this month or in May. And then very soon, this was just announced yesterday, SNAP recipients can pick up a pre-packaged box of food at the local food pantry. Now, if they go today, I'm sure the food pantry doesn't have that box ready. But that's an option that's out there that's being worked in the state of Ohio. Stimulus check doesn't affect HUD rent subsidies or OWF TANF funding. You can basically assume stimulus check is not going to affect any benefit that an individual receives right now. Not the same for unemployment. Unemployment reduces it, but it does not reduce nor affect an SSDI benefit. So if a person receives SSDI, that stimulus check or unemployment doesn't affect it at all, period. There's some Kroger employees, and I know we have a lot of individuals that work for Kroger. They have recently received $150 to $300 bonuses if they work during a specific time frame. Social Security will count this as earned income. So they will have to, if their SSI is affected, it's because of that bonus check. Had questions about whether Medicare was going to cover these tests? Yes, absolutely. It's going to be covered under Part B. When the vaccine is created, it too will be covered under Part D. And there'll be no out-of-pocket for anybody. Medicaid eligibility is affected by earned and unearned income. Again, unemployment insurance is unearned income, but no one can be terminated from Medicaid during COVID-19. So if an individual, and I won't be surprised if this happens, if an individual receives a letter from JFS that their Medicaid's being terminated, they need to question why it's being terminated, because during the COVID-19, it should not at all. And then this is really, really important. Notify Social Security as soon as the first unemployment check is received and upon returning to work. I'll guarantee that 90% of the people that I am working with in Cuyahoga County did not notify Social Security that they were laid off, nor JFS. And that's a no-no. Those rules, those requirements to notify Social Security when working and not working always apply. That's not changed. And the reason that's so important is especially for those people with SSI checks, because the UI check, the UI benefit amount does affect the SSI amount, and SSI checks are paid 2 months behind. They're going to get into an overpayment situation if they don't make those phone calls. And again, I know it takes a lot of patience to be on the phone, but that is the way it is for right now. So I went through that pretty quick. I'm going to stop share, and then any questions anybody has.
Darenda?
Yeah.
We have several questions in the chat, so I'm going to start down those, and then who else has questions, we'll jump in.
Okay, sounds good.
Does this apply to everyone being laid off, or I'm sorry, does this apply to everyone being laid off, not just the people we serve?
It applies to everyone being laid off due to COVID-19. Everyone. So for example, my daughter is self-employed. She has 2 businesses, and they've been affected to 0. So I applied for her to receive unemployment insurance.
Okay. What information should we or an individual have with them to make the process most seamless?
That one chart that lists all the different things they need to have in front of them, all that information, have that with them when you start doing the application. That's all they ask for. They'll ask for nothing else.
Should employees apply if their employer is continuing wages, PPP for employers?
So the employer is paying them the full benefit, even though they're not working.
Yeah, that one was for me, Darenda. So the plan for the PPE program is for employers to get that back. That's what they're applying for, the PPE program.
Oh, for the Paycheck Protection Program.
Yeah.
So actually CIE up in Cuyahoga County also applied for that program. And no, from initial answer to that question is they are not eligible for unemployment insurance. But I'm still watching that all the time to make sure. Because now we've got people, so for example, in the CIE group, I briefed his staff because their hours have been reduced. They went out and applied. Then 2 days later, Charlie decided to apply for the Paycheck Protection, which is fine. That's great. But now, how's that going to affect them in getting their check? So I don't have a definite answer, but as soon as I get one, I will communicate it.
Thank you. As I read these questions, whoever asked them, thank you for jumping in, because I want to make sure you get what you need.
Absolutely. And if you have questions that you think about after, just shoot me an email. That's perfectly fine.
What's a person we work with to go into the system every Sunday and they do not have internet or computer access? They had assistance from HPC provider to originally apply.
But they don't have computer access. They can use that phone number that I've had in the chart. It was on the bottom. You can call that phone number for assistance for a walkthrough. You can call them to apply. You can call them to do your weekly. You can call them for anything. Just please tell people, and I've had people so frustrated. I was on there for an hour and 45 minutes. Well, I'm sorry. There's a multi-million amount of people that are applying for unemployment. You're going to have to wait.
My son worked part-time from November 2019 to January in 2020. It was seasonal, and then was employed part-time this year elsewhere, then laid off just about a month after hire. Does he qualify for this?
Was he laid off due to COVID?
She's shaking her head, yes.
Oh, okay, I don't know who's talking. So,
it's Teresa.
Yes. Okay, so yes.
I was only there for maybe 3-4 weeks, and then he got laid off due to COVID.
Okay, so yeah, so under normal circumstances, he may not meet the 20-week, at least $269 in earnings a week.
Right,
Eligibility.
I know he doesn't qualify for that. That's why I was like,
All that's been waived. So any person who was laid off due to COVID or has reduced hours due to COVID should apply.
My daughter received an email after applying that said we needed to correct an error or omission. She's tried opening the report several times and received the message report is currently unavailable. Please check again later. What should she do?
So the system is spitting out notifications to people because they've got system issues right now. You know, they're trying to do an upgrade, and they did come out and say to ignore any notifications that you cannot access for right now.
I have an individual that lost his PIN number and hasn't had any luck reaching anyone to reset it. Is there any workaround to reset the PIN?
Not to my knowledge, but I will check into that. The calling is the only way I know.
And Dawn Booster asked that question.
I'm sorry.
Dawn.
Dorinda,
Dawn.
I'm sorry, this is Amanda. Dorinda, there is a phone number. I put it in the chat box. My husband had that problem yesterday. So he was able, it's an automated number. So you don't have to wait to talk to somebody. You can do it through the automated system.
Oh, awesome. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
What a team. And even the chat, I think Jen Holbrook asked a question and April answered it for us, so you guys are awesome. Kathy Jumper, yes, we'll email you the PowerPoint, and they also have, Darenda did a cheat sheet, and then like I said, Susan, David, and Darenda also did another sheet that talks about benefits, so you'll get all that information.
Hey, Michelle. Kyle here. Hey, are we going to, when you record, does that track all the stuff that's in the chat?
Well, we're reading everything. I'm reading all the questions that are in the chat, so I don't know the answer to that, but I'm reading every question that comes up, so we're still recording.
Kyle, it's
Oh, right.
April. I went through this last week, and yes, it does keep a log of all of the chat conversations, private and public.
Thank you.
Thanks, April. One more question and then any other questions we have. Should the ISCs assist the people we serve with filling out the unemployment applications, or will the employment department assist with this? I know we need to notify them.
Well, I guess that's going to be up to your manager. This is how I personally feel about it. And if we can assist someone going through this, then I think that's a good thing. But maybe that's not on the agenda. I don't know. Kyle, Michelle, you'll have to chime in there. You know, I assisted several people doing it. I had them on the phone while I was typing in the information. And it took 10, 15 minutes for each one.
I know Wendy's on the teams too. I wonder what her thoughts about that are.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Good morning. Hope I probably should turn off that other background. Sorry about that. That's a good question. I think we were talking about, you know, I think we would prefer it really probably be the employment ISCs. I mean, I guess if an ISC ends up doing it, as long as they feel comfortable doing it, I'm okay with it. But my preference would probably be kind of the employment ISCs kind of getting really comfortable with this and working with Darenda and Susan, Sarla. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. I would prefer it to be the employment ISCs.
Wendy, we've also had the IES help, assist, and providers help them.
Yes, I mean, it is something that an employment services provider, a waiver provider of employment services can do that also. So, and they can charge the waiver for that. So that is fine for anyone who's doing IES to do that and charge the waiver. I know not everyone necessarily has maybe an IES provider, but if they do, that's great. Otherwise, their HPC provider could also assist them and bill the waiver for that also. Any other thoughts on that, or does anyone else kind of want to chime on that? Oops, sorry.
I had a question. This is Natalie. I had an individual that I had to refer to his HPC waiver provider, and they actually assisted him. It was not very beneficial for this individual to try to do it over the phone, so they actually had to do it in person with him. So they did bring him into their office to do it. But I did have a question that was in the chat box. The question is the waiver provider called me and contacted me to tell me that they have to do this. His scheduled day is Sunday to reapply every week. So how should they address this? They did get a release signed by him stating that they are allowed to do this every week, since most of the information was entered into the system with him present, that he gave them permission to do this on his behalf every week. But it does fall on a Sunday that they're requiring him to do this. So how should we address this?
Well, everyone should fall on a Sunday.
I'm sorry?
Everyone should fall on a Sunday.
Okay, so how would we address that?
Well, if he's given the HPC provider the okay to do it, and they're comfortable doing that every Sunday, then I'm okay with that. I guess you need to let us know, hey, are they going over their typical amount of hours or something like that? You know, to look for some adjustments in the future. It shouldn't take too long. Otherwise, if they feel like they need to work with that person on Sunday, and again, that's not something they normally do, let's just kind of work through that and figure that out.
Okay, so they can bill without him being present?
Yeah, they can do on behalf of services, yes. So they can, there's a lot of things, kind of the guidance we're getting from OACB and the department right now is that, you know, there's some things that people need, maybe even like going to the grocery store or doing unemployment type things where they don't want the individual there with them or don't need them there with them necessarily. But yes, they can still do HPC and it's on behalf of. They probably just need to document it well that way. And eventually, you know, put in your case notes that we've authorized them to do on behalf of HPC. Okay.
Okay.
There was a lot of talk of could there be like virtual HPC where someone's, you know, chatting with someone on the phone, checking in with them, and the department is saying, hey, it's not. I'm doing air quotes. It's not virtual HPC. It is HPC, but it's on behalf of HPC. You're not there directly with that person, but you're doing things on their behalf. They're benefiting from them. You checking in, HPC provider checking in with them. Again, maybe going to the grocery store for them, filing for some benefits, things of that nature. So just document in your case notes that maybe you've had a conversation with the provider and that's what they're doing. Our case notes are the main thing that are going to help us get through this as far as if something comes back and someone has a question later, why do we authorize that or something like that? You know, just make sure you've got what you can in your case notes. Any other questions on that? And David really helped Darenda put this together. So, you know, his department has the employment ISEs. So again, we want them to get comfortable with this. Again, unless, you know, like I said, waiver providers are willing to do it. And even if some of the employment ISEs need to do something on a Sunday, we can talk with them about that and figure out, is there something that you're doing to assist a person on a Sunday? Can you do that or not? And if not, that's fine. But we're trying to be flexible on everyone's schedules too, to get something done when the person needs it done, if that makes sense to everybody. I'm sure David doesn't working every Sunday and doing that. Ha ha.
That's right. I don't have anything to do on Sunday now, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, Wendy.
Yes, Kathy.
So should we just like, I don't know, like come up with a thing? So like I'm thinking Mariana Tadros would be perfect for this. She works enough, she doesn't get any Social Security anymore and she's laid off. So
right.
Did I send, you know, an email to Kathy Hartline and David just so we kind of have a list of who all we're working with, or like
yes.
to April, and like who all should we put on it so everybody has the numbers they need and can track?
I'd say it's definitely who all is already kind of a part of her team for sure. Now, again, so if Job Fusion, if anyone from there, April or Amanda is already a part of that team, or FTS is part of that team already, you want them included, because especially if someone's already is their IES waiver provider, because again, they should probably be doing that. Then they can go ahead and bill the waiver. But if you've got, you know, say Kathy hasn't been involved because the person's working, so she's faded out of that, I would definitely make sure you've got Kathy and David in there minimum, and then the other team members would just depend on who's already been working with her. So everyone's kind of in the loop.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we caught everybody for you.
I get that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I would just add on to that, like even if that person, you know, was employed and they're still going through, you know, OOD for their supports, that we still include that vendor. So whether it's Job Fusion, FTS, whoever that is, just in that correspondence too, because again, just to the point that I think April said, OOD may authorize that for that person to be, helped with unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to add two things. One, if a person cannot do Sunday updates, it's okay. It's perfectly okay. Just do them as soon as possible through the week, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. It's the reason that you would like to stay on top of it is because your payments are going to be more expedient the faster you are. Well, that's what they say. We'll see. And then Kathy, you mentioned about you had someone who had stopped receiving Social Security because of the amount of earnings they were making. Please make sure that anybody who had benefits that stopped because of earnings, that they request an expedited reinstatement of their Social Security benefits.
Okay.
If they fall within those time frames. So for example, just real quick, if it's an SSI person, they have 12 months from the month that their SSI stopped due to earnings to request an expedited reinstatement.
Wow, okay.
SDI person, they've got about an 8-year safety net. It depends on when the trial work period ended and when the SSDI actually stopped. So if you go from when the SSDI actually stopped, they have 5 years to ask for an expedited reinstatement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Going once?
Darenda, can I just ask one question? Because I know this has just kind of come up in regards to like voluntarily leaving a job due to, concerns with COVID and everything, and not being, I'm assuming that person is not, eligible for unemployment benefits or, doing or being, kind of put off due to a doctor's excuse or anything else like that. Can you maybe touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I can. So the reason I got plugged into Cuyahoga so quickly was they had 7 employees who worked for a manufacturing company who were highly susceptible and had aged parents or support people at home. And CIE decided to pull them out of RMG before we had the declaration from the state. So at that time, they were not eligible to apply for unemployment. Once the governor made the disaster proclamation, if you will, for the state of Ohio, then they became eligible. Okay. And I didn't, there's no reason to give a person to give the history of that. Just apply for it, put COVID-19 and go on. You don't have to say, well, the first 3 weeks, I just chose to do it. Now, and now that company has decided to close or shut down for temporarily. And that's what's happening with a lot of people. They didn't initially close and now they are initially, like restaurants and bars and, they were doing curbside service and what have you. Now, a lot of them have decided not even to do that. So those people should absolutely apply.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick to piggyback on David's question, if we're listing their last date of employment, is the date that they're officially let go by their employer or that they chose to, self-quarantine or no longer go to work?
The last date of employment.
Okay.
Well, the last day they work. Let's not say employment because hopefully these people aren't losing their jobs. The last date worked. Go by the last date worked.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Darenda, I've had questions about filing for FMLA. Or do you think that people should try to apply for that?
From everything I've read, I would lean towards no. But I'll look into that a little bit more just to make sure. Okay.
Any other questions?
Lots of good questions.
Thanks everybody for the great questions. Thank you very much, Darenda, for sharing all the information. And we will get those handouts out to you, including her PowerPoint. It's great to see everyone. Again, the information was awesome for the individuals we serve, but also for it sounded like some family members of staff and everything too. So that was great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome. My pleasure.
Everyone have a
Stay
great
well.
sunny day. Stay safe and healthy.
Bye-bye.